This video is about elimination communication, and this is basically toileting a baby from birth. It's not as hard as you would think it would be. It's actually really easy to do, which we didn't realise how easy it was to do until we started doing it, and how incredibly beneficial it was to do. So our daughter Elfie, she's now 6, and she's nearly 7, and when she was when I was pregnant, we were learning about elimination communication and wanted to do it because we were going to be doing cloth nappying, and we thought, well, if we can try this, we'll see how it goes. And so what we ended up doing was elimination communication along with cloth nappies, so that she had a nappy on, but we would try and always go with her cues. So cues is it's learning to listen to your baby and watch and study your baby and look for their signals of when they need to go to the toilet. So it's been such a long time ago, I'm trying to remember as much information as I can. So it was like definitely after she had a feed she would need to go. Definitely after waking up, after she'd had a nap, she would need to go. And I can't remember the other times, and I don't even remember what signal she used to give. I think it was like a little wriggle of her legs or something that she always used to do. It might have been a sound she made, something that she always used to do when she needed to go. So it took us a while to get used to that and learn about that. So to begin with, we just did some nappy free time to learn, what was going to happen before she went. But yeah, so the start of her journey, when she was 5 days old, we started this because we needed a good rest after she was born. So when she was 5 days old, we started with when she'd had a nap, because that's the most common time that a baby would need to go. So she would wake up, we'd take the cloth nappy off and hold her over a bowl. We just had like a tin bowl at the time, or a potty. It's good to have various things that you can use. So we would hold her over the tin bowl, and I've got a doll. I've got one of Elfie's dolls. I don't really know how else to show you how to do it, but basically this is Elfie's doll. This is called Jim. And we would hold her with her back to our front. So we'd hold her there like this. Obviously this is a lot smaller than Elfie was. So she was a little bit bigger than that. So we'd hold her with her back to our front. Hold her legs. Obviously her legs are going to bend at the knees like this. Well, unlike this doll. So her legs would be like this. We'd hold her like this, hold her over the bowl, and she went. And it's like she was 5 days old and she just went straight away the first time we did it. It's because we followed the advice of taking her after she'd woke up from a nap. And so we just carried on with it, and we would do, we would go with those definite times after a feed. Obviously she was breastfeeding a lot, so we would take her after a feed, after a sleep. And it was like not so very often that she would go in the nappy while we were getting used to the cues, and that got, like, the wet nappies would get less and less frequent the more that we got to know each other, the more that we got to know each other's cues and signals. So yeah, plenty of nappy free time to watch what happens. Sometimes there's going to be like times when the baby's going to eat or poo on you, but as long as you're well prepared and kind of maybe have a towel or a cloth or something under the baby, just so you can see the exact time that it happens and what happens before that happens. So it takes a lot of watching and studying and seeing what happens, but it wasn't hard because like I was breastfeeding all the time, so I'd often just be with her, and when I was doing jobs and up and about and doing things, I would have her in a wrap and I would have the nappy on her then. So I was only having those certain times of watching, and the same with Luke, only having those certain times of watching her to try and get as good idea as we could of when she needed to go to the toilet. So this is actually a really common thing in some other countries, like especially China, India, Africa, and like various other parts of Africa. Obviously that's not a country, but like different countries in Africa, and probably lots and lots of countries all over the world where this is just the done thing. It's a common thing that they just don't have nappies and wouldn't want to use nappies. So yeah, there's all kinds of products you can get, like in China, and you can get them here sometimes. It's hard to get hold of them, or it was then. Don't forget, this was like nearly 7 years ago. It was harder to get hold of the trousers that are split, so it's easier to take them and stuff like that. But we never found it that hard to just take off things and take her to the toilet. We didn't worry too much. There are people that do EC or elimination communication like all the time, full on. That's lovely. That wasn't what we wanted to do. We had to find a way that worked for us. So there would be wees and poos in nappies sometimes, but we would just try and get as many as we possibly could, and that would save a huge amount of nappies. And we only used cloth nappies. We didn't use any plastic nappies at all, and we also only used cloth wipes if we needed them. But the thing is, with doing ECs, you don't really hardly need things like wipes. It's like you just need, you can, yeah, it's not like you've got to clean up a big mess because they've just been to the toilet, so it's like they're not going to need much cleaning up or wiping if you're doing EC. Just a tiny bit. So I'm just looking for my things about EC. So I thought this was years ago I got this information. I did a talk about it locally, and I just wrote down some things off the internet of what they were saying the statistics were at the time. So it said on the internet at the time, nappy waste for a baby in the nappy wearing years, that there would be between 5,000 and 6,500 nappies used in nappy wearing years, which equals 130 black bin bags full of nappies, if you're using throwaway nappies. And that worked out, it said, as 8 million throwaway nappies used a day, 3 billion nappies used in a year in the UK alone. This is like no other country, just the UK. So it was 8 million a day, 3 billion a year. And apparently it says there are more disposable nappies in UK waste than anything else. In the USA, it said there are 20 billion nappies used in a year, which causes 3.5 million tonnes of waste a year. So this is all off the internet. And other facts I got about disposable nappies, it takes 200,000 trees a year for disposables in the USA alone, 3.4 billion gallons of oil. The global disposable nappy market was worth 46.5 billion US dollars in 2016. In the US and Europe, 90% of nappying is disposable. Manufacture takes huge amounts of virgin paper, water, power, plastic and chemicals. Compared to cloth nappies, disposables use 2.3 times more water waste, 3.5 times more energy, 8.3 times more non-renewable raw materials, oil, minerals, 4 to 30 times as much land for growing or mining raw materials, 1 cup of crude oil to make just the plastic for one disposable, not including the manufacture and delivery of the nappies. So that's just what I got off the internet, and that's what it said. And obviously washable nappies are great, they're really, really good, and we loved using washable nappies. Now I can share some tips about that if you're interested. We tried all kinds of products. This is one that the midwife gave us, and it was really nice, and it was really good. This was one of our favourite ones for going out. So this was a Little Lamb one. I don't know if these companies are still going now, but this company is called Little Lamb. They probably are. This is an organic cotton nappy, and it looks just like a normal nappy. You get a disposable nappy and it wraps around like this, and they have the tapes on and things like that. So it looks just like one of those. And so if we were in the car or in the van or going somewhere, this kind of nappy was really useful because it was less fumbling. It's just, you know, it's got Velcro on it. It just went on really, really easily. So we used to try and save. I think we had 3 or 4 like this, and we used to just save those for situations like this. But actually, these nappies we found took a lot of drying. So after they'd been washed, if they'd been used, then they took quite a long time to dry, compared to, now I don't have any of these anymore, but you know, the muslin cloths, the square cotton cloths, they've usually got little square sort of weave patterns on it, muslin cloths, and they're really, really fine, thin cloth. I've got this little bag. It's not really like this, it's much thinner than this, but it's just we just use the natural organic muslin cloths. They weren't much money in comparison, because these were really, we got given this one by the midwife, but we had a few that we bought and they were really, really expensive in comparison to the muslin cloths. So the muslin cloths were quite big, and unfortunately I can't show you how we used to fold them, but if you were to look online, and if it's possible for me to post a link in the comments, I will, but I'm not sure if it works on Instagram or YouTube to post in the comments, but I'll try it. But anyway, we used to fold the muslin cloths in a certain way so it made sort of a nappy shape. And then we also, because we had these terry toweling shapes that would fit inside the nappy, like a, you know, like extra padding, and those also would take longer to dry than a muslin cloth, which we could just wash, hang up. It was dry in minutes, which was so useful in winter time. I can't even tell you, it was just brilliant. So they washed and dried really nicely, and what we used to do was fold them. We'd have a muslin cloth that we folded for a nappy, for the outside of the nappy, and then in the end we found the best way was just to fold more muslin cloths to make the padding, because obviously the muslin is really thin, so that's not going to make a nappy on its own. So we used to fold, I think it was 2 others for the wadding of the nappy, and put those inside. Then we would wrap that around Elfie and use this thing. I think it was called like a, let me see, it's on it. I think it's called a snappy, like a nappy snappy. And it's basically got little teeth on it, which catch into the fabric. So if I show you on this muslin, they just catch into the fabric. It means you haven't got to use a pin. And it catches into the fabric and it doesn't move. So you put it in one side, see if I can show you on the back. You put it on one side of the nappy and then stretch it onto the other side of the nappy, but not too tight across the baby's tummy. And then you would stretch the bottom one down, that would hold the bottom bit up. So that whole thing used to hold the nappy together really well. It was brilliant, just not too tight. And then we would have cloth nappy covers. Now this is one that's just literally 100% wool, and you have to lanolin these to make them waterproof. I actually found these were seemed like the nicest idea to use, but I actually found them quite hard to use. So we did have some that have the lining inside, like a rubbery lining inside, and it was like sort of pretty. They're usually quite pretty cloth on the outside, and that would velcro over the top of the muslin nappy that we'd make, and that's just like a protector. That's kind of like in a throwaway nappy you get that plastic lining or whatever. It was kind of worked like that, so it had a rubbery lining and that would stop it leaking. What else can so, and I mean, for cloth wipes, we just got sort of old, I got a lot of organic things off eBay. I would look for organic sheets, which I would rip up. This is not one, this is just some retro-y kind of flannelette fabric. But I would look for like organic flannelette sheets. And even though I can sew, I wouldn't even bother. I didn't have time for it. So I would just cut a little nick in the fabric, tear it, do it outside because it creates a lot of fluff. Tear it into pieces that were the size that I would want to use, and then just use those as wipes, and to go out, like it was usually to go out that we'd use wipes really, or take them with us in case. Then we would have these little square cloths, keep them in a waterproof bag, like a swim bag or something like that. We had like a nice little neat waterproof bag, and then we'd have one for the ones that have been used and one for the clean ones, so you can wet them at home, take them out wet, and you could use a little bit of lavender essential oil or something like that in the soak water, so wet them and then take those out, and they were great. There's like no need to use any wipes at all, like commercial wipes. Yeah, we would keep like little, if something comes in a cloth bag, keep things like that. They're really useful for putting the nappies in, and putting the muslins in to take out, and all the little bits and bobs. And to go out, doing EC going out, we would keep a potty or a bowl in the car or the van, and we would use that as often as we could, but we never stressed ourselves out about it ever. It's like, if it was not convenient to do it, we just wouldn't, because that was what worked for our family, and that's what it's about, being relaxed around the baby and not creating a stress. So we would use it if we found that easy or suitable to do, and not if not. So she would be toileted while travelling as well. Doing the EC, I'm sure, it saved lots of nappies by taking off a dry nappy, taking the baby to the toilet, and then putting a dry nappy back on. It's like that nappy doesn't have to be washed, so it saved loads and loads of nappies like that. So every time you manage to follow a cue or follow the structure of when the baby needs the toilet, that's saving so much in nappies. But also it meant, because she was used to using a toilet and that was not alien to her, she was not like kind of in a real stuck routine of just going to the toilet in a nappy. She was out of nappies completely during the daytime by the time she was 18 months. It's usually sooner than that when people do like full on EC with no cloth nappy backup. Like, I've heard like other people getting the babies dry a lot younger than that. So, but for Elfie and the way we did it, she was 18 months when she was dry during the day. It was a month, maybe 2 months after that, then she was dry travelling. Like, we could travel anywhere and she would be dry. She would just use the toilet alone, and that's it. And that, by that time, that meant she had no nappies on. She just didn't have to wear a nappy anymore. And then she was dry at night by the time she was 2. So, and like, I think she's only ever had 1 or 2 times not being dry at night. That's only happened once or twice, right at the beginning when she was just not having the nappy on, and then it never happened again, and she was completely used to it. So I think that as well has saved like loads and loads in nappies. So yeah, that felt like a really good thing. It felt good in our hearts to do that. It felt really nice, and it was really nice to connect to the baby in that way. And yeah, it was really lovely. I'd really recommend it. It sounds like a massive hassle when I'm talking about it. It really wasn't. It wasn't a massive hassle. And we're busy people. We had a lot to do. We've got a lot that we were doing. So it's not like we're just sitting around all day and we've got loads of time to do this. You just get used to it. It's just, we just made the decision we were going to do it. Tried to work out the way that would work best for us. Like, for us, it worked best with nappy backup. And that was just the quickest. If there's we take the nappy off and she's already gone, then it doesn't mean we've got to change her clothes, change our clothes, do this whole rigmarole. That felt better to us, so we were just like, okay, we need a fresh nappy. But often, like most of the time, the nappy would be able to be dry, and the times when it wasn't was when we were more distracted. Like, always, it's like if we've got visitors, if we're doing something that's really distracting, like we're really working hard at something or trying to do something, that's the times that it would happen. So yeah, that's how it went for us, and that's as much as I can really remember. I think if you want to ask any questions, please feel free to do so. I'll try and remember as best I can. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I've got to share on that at the moment, and I hope that helps. And if you want to do it but feel really, really overwhelmed by it, just try it. Just give it a go. If it's in your heart to do it, give it a try, and just look on the internet, Google it all you can, either E.C. EC, or Elimination Communication, or potty training babies, nappy training babies from birth. You know, Google different wordings of it and see what's out there, see what information, because there's people probably doing it in all different ways, so you could like find the best way for you, get the best tips. And yeah, but that's our story. So yeah, hope that helps.